I've been playing multiplayer first-person shooters for a ridiculously long amount of time. I got into them mostly with Halo Combat Evolved on the PC. It was one of my first experiences with true high frame rate gaming. It exposed me to online multiplayer servers, the beautiful nature of a server browser, custom game modes, custom maps, all of that. And I went on to play a gamut of free-to-play multiplayer titles at the time, like Combat Arms and whatever I could get my hands on. As I transitioned to the Xbox 360 era with Halo 2 and Halo 3, I started competing semi-professionally. Now, you wouldn't have heard of me. I wasn't in the MLG tournaments, but I was doing a fair bit in the local tournament scene with 3 and Reach. And I was always trying to be super sweaty in Call of Duty as a teenager and young adult. As I went into adulthood, I continued to play multiplayer first-person shooters as my primary game mode. But in the last couple years, I've completely broken up with the genre. I've completely distanced myself from that scene altogether. And I thought it was time I finally talked about why.
It's not like I didn't enjoy single-player games before, but when it came time to game on my own, I just wasn't doing it. It felt like there was too much friction. For whatever reason, it felt easier to boot up 2, 3, even 4 different multiplayer games in one night, with the hopes of having a good time, than to just play an offline game which was almost guaranteed to provide fun. I think a few significant elements play into this. First, I think I was holding on to the idea of what my nightly gaming sessions should be, rather than being aware of what they actually were. In middle school, whenever I could connect to our dial-up internet, I was playing RuneScape 2, browsing forums, joining my favorite servers in FPS games, and I was making friends. In high school, I had buddies on Xbox Live every night, ready for Halo and Call of Duty lobbies as soon as I finished homework. In college, it was assumed my buddies would be waiting on me to join in Rocket League matches or a Destiny raid or strike on PlayStation 4. I played a decent amount of single-player games during this time, but my default was always multiplayer. Even up until I had a kid, I was frequently hopping into multiplayer first to join in on PUBG, Apex, Siege, and others. This all went on to create a baseline expectation that easy, quick fun in games comes from multiplayer. Having fun with others requires less work and effort, so that does make some sense. The problem is, that doesn't inherently translate to solo queuing. Playing games with friends means having fun, goofing off, chatting, trying hard sometimes, and spending time together. While there were some preferences about what we play and some experiences that bring more excitement than others, broadly speaking, the game does not matter when friends are playing together. Sometimes we're grinding a competitive rank in Siege, Counter-Strike, Apex. Sometimes we're playing in the sandbox of Warzone, Halo, or rest in peace, my sweet prince, OG Splitgate. Other times we're defending Super Earth and Helldivers 2. Outside of specific objective-focused excitement or wanting to return to a certain flow we had the night before, the game was just the vehicle for socialization and social play. Naturally, it makes sense that when you've been having a lot of fun in a particular game with friends, that you'd want to continue playing it when they can't hop on. But for me, that hasn't panned out. Without the social aspect present, all you're left with in solo queue is the gameplay loop and the competitive aspect. I had a brief stint in caring about being good while playing solo in Halo or Call of Duty or insert other game here when I was younger, but it's hard to hold that in high priority anymore. So the first element of this struggle is definitely trying to recreate the vibes, the experience, the general good time from gaming with buds in solo game time, which just doesn't work. I love D&D and tabletop gaming, and I've very much missed it lately while my usual groups have been busy. But I'm not about to try to run a campaign by myself here. The second element at play is the truth behind all the whining and moaning you see in countless videos already. The multiplayer gaming landscape has changed a lot in the last 10 years. I'm sure I don't need to beat the dead horse here, but engagement-optimized matchmaking and overtuned skill-based matchmaking combined with a heavy emphasis on esports-style play, i.e. lots of Counter-Strike and Siege clones, took most of the casual social modes fun out of multiplayer shooters. Everything is algorithmically tuned to optimize the fun out of your game and maximize how much time you spend grinding. This plays in with the reduction of game mode options in general in modern multiplayer games compared to the late 2000s. Gone are server browsers. Gone are the plethora of playlists we had in Halo 3 and Call of Duty 4. Gone is any sense of casual play in most games. Hypermonetization via loot boxes, battle passes, limited time event skins, etc. overemphasize grinding for extrinsic rewards and completely taint the experience for someone who wants to have fun for the sake of it. The move to mostly free-to-play microtransaction-supported models make it feel like getting a polished, complete experience on launch is impossible, and that I am the product rather than the game. The reduction of social tools drastically impacts the organic social experiences that once happened in traditional match-made games, and could often supplement going into the game with a party. You don't really get that anymore. At the core of much of this is an obsession with player retention rather than a quality product, which results in the constant cloning of existing successful experiences, Fortnite, Overwatch, etc., which make games doomed to fail on launch and remove all investment into more niche core experiences, like arena shooters, in favor of more generalized trends. All of these combine to turn my favorite genre of game, historically, into a complete dumpster fire that winds up not being a good time in nearly any way when playing solo. Any modern iteration of my past favorite games can be fun with friends because the social aspect makes it fun. When I log in at 10 p.m. to solo queue and expect to magically play at a super high skill level or have the same kind of fun I had with a stacked voice chat the night before, all I'm left with are the echoes of battle pass pestering and miserable grinding matches. The third element of this multiplayer first habit comes from the friction or perceived friction when trying to build up immersion into the gaming experience. Again, it's super easy to hop into a big Discord call with buddies and jump in a game lobby and lose your sense of surroundings, lose track of hours, and just feel absolutely in it. Very rarely does this not happen when playing with friends. But when you're on your own, your thoughts wander more, your surroundings hold more object permanence, your responsibilities and bodily feelings are much more loud, and distractions can be stubborn in your periphery. Social obligation makes falling into the trap of playing music or a show or a YouTube video in the background of your game, or alt-tabbing to scroll a feed or work on something else mid-session, much more of a deal breaker. When it's solo, it's too easy to do it with minimal consequences. I spent years continuing to load up solo queue multiplayer games when I, quote-unquote, only had 20 minutes, an hour, or a couple hours to play, because at one point in time, the quick in-and-out matchmaking of Halo or Call of Duty perfectly fit into that block of time, and it felt like I didn't have time to get immersed in a normal single-player or offline game. But that was just a feeling. Since breaking up with online multiplayer gaming, I've finished a few full-story games solo, and started and got into many more, put countless hours into session games, and shared massive story experiences with my wife. Just having a couple hours does not mean I don't have time to get immersed or to have fun. It just requires the right headspace. If I sit down at my desk and pull up a browser window in Discord and I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff while gaming, I'm going to be distracted, and I'm not really going to be into the game. If I minimize or close everything else and keep the game full screen with the intent to focus fully on the game, I can do it. In fact, despite being a technology maximalist and nearly always keeping multiple monitors at my setups, my personal gaming setup in our house has been dropped to a single monitor to aid in the focus and immersion. Once the headspace is right, the next step is really figuring out what kind of game I want to play. Get your 10-step game time optimization systems away from me. Stop trying to pitch me the psychology of optimizing your fun. You're overthinking it all. The feelings test, as we dubbed it in the first episode of the DualCom podcast, is the simplest, least intrusive way to determine if you're enjoying your game time, and has made all the difference in this shift away from multiplayer gaming for me. The gist is, before you sit down to play a game, think about how you'll feel playing the game or how you will feel after. Write it down. This can be as vague as you want or as specific as you want. For example, I want to have fun. I want to laugh. I want the thrill of winning a competition. I want to feel challenged. I want to forget my rough day. I want to escape the world's troubles. I want to decompress before bed. Then, after your gaming session, take 5, 10, 20 minutes, reflect. Did your feelings match what you expected? Did you have the kind of experience you planned on? If not, why? Write that down. Bonus is to take some notes, mental or written, during your play session too, especially if it's a long one. This will quickly inform you as to whether you're on the right path. If I sit down to game and my goal is to decompress, a sweaty, competitive, engagement-optimized matchmaking focused solo queue multiplayer FPS session will not result in that. So many people expect to just chill out after their work or forget their rough day, but a frustrating 50-50 win-loss ratio focused game session only makes them feel more tilted. If I want to laugh and have fun, a completely isolated non-verbal gaming session is not likely to reproduce that either. The final step is to start figuring out what games better align with what you actually want when you do sit down to game. For me, solo queue multiplayer was never going to achieve the desired effect, at least on my own. But lengthy story-heavy single-player games aren't always the right answer either. Sometimes I really do only have a few minutes before bed or a short window waiting on my kiddo, and jumping into a cutscene-heavy game or one where I can't make any meaningful progress in a short amount of time is not the right call. That's when the session game comes into play. Roguelikes, deck builders, racing games, creativity-focused games, games where short investment times are acceptable and reaching the end credits is not really even a goal, are what is best for me to play in those moments. I also have to remember to consider what I am feeling on any individual given day or night. Sometimes I want to sit down and really bury myself in a story world game of Horizon Forbidden West or Digimon Story Time Stranger and explore and progress. But sometimes I'm just not feeling it, and that's okay. Those gaming sessions are better left to the session games or exploring new games with an open mind. Sometimes I just try out like 3 different new games I've picked up or play some demos on Steam, and I discover whole new avenues of me to have fun with. And sometimes gaming isn't even the right call at all. Sometimes watching a movie or show, reading, writing, or just relaxing is a smarter way to spend my time. That's okay too. Gaming isn't everything. As part of my breakup, I just kind of refused to go near competitive multiplayer games. This lasted about 6 months or so. I had a big stigma attached to them, and I didn't want to let them back in my life. I only played co-op games with my wife or the occasional Helldivers 2 night with my Discord moderators under the quote-unquote multiplayer umbrella. I think this forced, serious distance was necessary to feel like I was in control of the situation. These days, I don't hate the scene like I once did. I still have no interest in investing heavily into a live service slot model and will still focus on experiences where my time and autonomy are respected instead, but I'm not going to avoid them altogether. My wife and I still miss the days when Overwatch was good and we played together nightly, and we briefly recreated that with Marvel Rivals before getting burned on that too. If there's a new fun multiplayer experience that some friends want to play, I'll happily join in if I end up with a copy and have time. But I'm no longer seeking them out. I'm no longer hinging my fun on them, and I'm no longer solo queuing. Period.
Thank you for watching. If you connected with any of this, please let me know in the comments below or over on the forums at demodisk.zone, as it would mean a lot. And yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. I just wanted to share some thoughts. I had a blog post about this up on the gamer.dad blog, but I thought maybe it was worth making a video as well. Remember to be kind, rewind.